Does it only last 30 days?
No.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome back after lunch for this session where we're going to look at third-party applications that are sort of been built around the whole Lync ecosystem. So my name is Paul Dollios. I'm part of the Microsoft New Zealand team. I'm here sort of looking after Lync. With me today, I've also got two guys who I work with at Genai, Jan Koch, Brian Allison. These guys are part of the sort of the UC team and contact center team there, so I've worked with a lot of these applications. So we're going to try and show and demonstrate some of this stuff as well as talk about it. But really, in terms of what are we talking about in terms of applications or value-added applications around the Lync platform, it's, Lync does an awful lot of stuff out of the box. We done some stuff this morning and showed some of that capability that we have there natively. But then there's certain areas, and every business will have something where they think, well, we've got this call center and we need to handle calls in this particular manner, or we want to, I've got these lawyers and they need to be able to bill their clients when they take phone calls on how many minutes they're on the phone to them so they can bill them and get the money back and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of business reasons that applications are being built around Lync. I actually reached out to one of our guys in Redmond last week just to say, hey, how many qualified Lync applications are you aware of around Lync 2013? And he said, well, it's gone from a list to a database. All right, so in terms of the scale, this stuff is sort of ramping up very, very quickly. And really this session, what we're going to do is dive into some of that stuff, give you a bit of a opener around, hey, what is out there, what can be done when you think around Lync. It can be much, much more than just IM and presence and voice and video and collaboration around there, and how you can perhaps tie it to your business or your customer businesses that we have. Simple ones, right? This is one I could deal with a lot based on some of the IM conversations I have with people. But having the ability to have an abuse filter, all right? It's simply there just stripping out those abusive IM language that comes in my way, all right? So you deploy it as an application at the back end, and then it can flag up reports and do all that good stuff around there, and someone gets a tap on the shoulder because they've been sending abusive IMs, around the place in real time across there. So again, simple things, but just sort of bridging a void where some customers will say, hey, in our organization, we really need to do that, for whatever reason that may be coming in there. This one here, and forget reading the text down the left-hand side of all these slides because they're just going to be available there if you read sort of after the event if you download these things off the net. But really this one here is talking about compliance and, well, it shouldn't be talking about compliance accounting, it's about green meetings. I've got the wrong title on the slide across there. But so what is this? This is looking at the carbon footprint of an organization and also down to the individual user level. So every time I go and schedule a meeting, a Lync meeting, okay, it's asking for some additional information about, hey, where were you going to go for that meeting? Well, I was going to go and travel from wherever this is in Toronto, obviously in Canada, around there, and it takes into account that I was going to travel 12 miles to get to that meeting from my location. It knew how much that was going to consume in terms of my footprint from the vehicle, in terms of carbon emissions and all that other data, time, cost, employee, you name it, and it builds up these green credentials for an organization. So each employee has their own dashboard when they go in there, and they can look and say, hey, this meeting, I'm going to save one maple tree. So we definitely are in Canada right now, across this thing. But then, you feed that back in the organization at the end of the year, huge value add, right? As an IT, you can provide back to the business around that. Do you know, hey, this Lync thing and what it's actually doing for us from a green credentials point of view across there? So that's an interesting application that's been built out there by Avanti. We all walk into offices and receptions there, and you walk up to the kiosk, and a lot of organizations now have got the touch screens. You walk in and you type your name on the keyboard, type the name of the person you're there, and it'll IM them, and it'll email them, and it'll SMS them, and tell them they're there. This is a concept of taking that, but just fully baking it into Lync as it comes in there. So now I walk in to the touch screen in the reception as a visitor. I walk in there. I can type and search for the name, and as I type bill, it'll bring up all the bill photos across there. So if I know the person's name, I can just push it on them, touch for them, and then either A, launch a video call straight from that kiosk to that person if they're available, or B, if they're not there, again, it will do the usual thing in the background. So it'll go, it will reach out, it will do instant message, it will do an SMS to notify. So just a native visitor application, again, that's tied through on the Lync backend when it comes in there. Zcom, who are here as one of the exhibitors, if you've not been across their stand in there right now. So they have a bunch of applications that are there and work with Lync today. So Again, when you speak to some larger organizations or people that do a lot of centralized call answering, like you walk in and the receptionist takes all of the main number calls. Okay, sometimes they want something a little bit more specialized in terms of how they handle that call flow and how they group their things, and very individual requirements around there. Then again, there's Zcom, there's a whole bunch of different applications out there offering these attendant console type capabilities that we have coming in there. Okay, so again, just run it up as an application and we're away across here. This was one, and I was actually asked about this by somebody the other day saying, hey, we're a legal firm, I mentioned at the start. How do we ensure we're going to bill our customers for every single second that I'm on the phone to them across there, right? So this is it, okay? This is like a time and expense management portal. Just a Silverlight application that builds out across there in Lync. So now, as I'm on the call to a client, okay, I can select drop-downs, I can book time against them for that particular call and other criteria that may be in there. So then, that will go off into whatever the line of business application is that's doing all that accounting and billing at the back end across there. But again, it's making sure you don't miss a trick in terms of getting that bill, out there. So if you think around the new concept of having federation and having, a Skype person coming in externally, you can potentially bill for all your Skype IM as well coming into the lawyer's firm. So don't want to encourage the legal fraternity to get some ideas around how they can bill additional money for us all, but there's this sort of application is really there to deliver that type of thing when it comes in. What else? I mean, there's such a huge variety of stuff, right? And in terms of what this is really hooking back into, there's, we've got client-side APIs, okay, where you see some of the stuff bubbling up from the client. Server-side APIs, such as this, tying in things such as geo-presence and other criteria and bringing that into the mix. Now, this one, I suppose it's pretty timely, and it's actually in use in Victoria, in Australia here. Now, this is really collating data and allowing group, if you like, messaging, okay, and reporting of bushfires, okay? So I'm out and about, and I'm one of the organisation. I see there's a bushfire in this vicinity. I can send an SMS or use the app which has my GPS location on the device. Bingo, sends that back in. Okay, it could be a phone call back in because it can take text coming in. It can take a voice call coming in, translates it all to text, pushes it out, and does a notification around every other person the other. So think of like a bush alerting or community alerting service. So I can do that through any media you may have there, any PSTN, any telco, any network as it comes in, or any modality. It can push this out. So very powerful in how it actually brings all this together. And in this scenario, we're tying in some of that geolocation type services in terms of identifying based on GPS coordinates and where people currently are and risk and all those mitigating factors around there. This one is one that gets asked a lot, and I'm whistling through these because there's a lot of them, right? And we've got a bunch of demos to get through, but it's just to give you some exposure around some of this stuff. Often when Lync's deployed for what we call enterprise voice, so as the phone system, a lot of organizations have a criteria where they want to record all the calls, be it for compliance, be it for its contractual reasons or whatever it happens to be, but it's, hey, we have to capture every single call, or this department, the sales team, we've got to capture every single call that they make to a customer or receive from a customer that it has coming in there. So again, Verba, and again, there's lots of these different call recording type applications out there. Here, I can see a stream of calls. Of course, it's all searchable, so I can search by number dialed or, person, the extension, or whatever it happens to be, and play back or replay those calls. It can be much richer than just voice, all right? So it can also capture things like content in terms of there as well, all right? So, if I'm the person typing and I'm speaking to the customer, it's going to record the call and the audio. It's also going to capture what I was typing at that very time in context across there, all right? So lots of applications and scenarios. And Jan, when he comes up here, in one of the contact center demonstrations, is going to give you a bit of a snapshot of what that really looks like and how that works with Lync Server across there. So that's a bunch of quick fire stuff, I suppose, around some of the things that can be done. So now what we want to do is build this out and go through some different scenarios, if you like, around what can be there. So I've got a couple of demos first, and then we're going to drill into some contact center stuff and get into some detail around how all that plays nicely. So let me just end this slideshow, and hopefully I'm still connected to my corporate network. Cool, we're all good. Okay, first one thing I want to talk about and show is around what we call bots. Okay, So bots is really now taking some sort of business process, whatever it happens to be, and allowing me to interact. Rather than interacting with a human, I'm going to interact with a bot that's going to give me a series of choices, or responses. And it could be as simple of, one of these I can type in, I can ask a question, hey, what is Windows 8.1? And it will go off and do a web query, bring me a response, and put it back in the IM window. So you can use it as like this Q&A type thing, real simple. And a lot of these are free and available for download, these sort of applications as well on the web when it comes through there. This one here I got highlighted on the screen, if you can see it there, it's called Fast Help. Right, think about your internal IT help desk and how that probably currently operates today. It would probably be the fact that, hey, I've got a problem with my mobile phone, and it's a company mobile phone. How do I report a fault on there and get it raised? So it's I either email into the help desk and wait for a response, or B, I ring the number. Now, in a big organization like Microsoft, when I ring our help desk number, I'm going to get music for 5 minutes. I'm going to get, after the music, I'm going to get press 1, because you've got a problem with your communication device. Cool. Press 2, it's a problem with your network or your Windows, whatever it happens to be, right? We've all been through those call flows. And we do it via voice and we dial in. There's better ways of doing that stuff. Now, if you think about your organization using Lync, wouldn't it be easier if I could sort of go through that process or that pre-screening process and routing process to get to the right person? Because ideally, I want to speak to the right person about the problem with my mobile phone. I can just grab this guy, go into an IM session, type hi. Okay, so I'm talking to a bot effectively, and now we're just building up a little silver application in the background across there. All right? This could be, I could be doing it on voice, and now I've effectively got my press 1 for this, 2 for this type option, but now I've got it in a graphical format. So now sitting here on my Surface and a touch screen, I can say, hey, yeah, well, I've got a problem with the communication device, so I can just tap on that square. Bingo. Now it's going to bring me up another menu option. I've cut out all the cheesy music, and they're sitting there waiting on there just by, scripting and going through this stuff. So it's not overly complex, all right? It's obvious when you sort of do this stuff, but it's changing that whole paradigm of how you can do these sorts of call flows. You could even do it for customers coming in externally from a website, all right? So now I want to reach into an organization, and I want to get through to the billing team, whoever it happens to be. Excuse me. I can go through as a customer externally and have that same experience. Just click through via a website. But in the background, what's happening is Lync is now narrowing down or routing me through to the appropriate skill set or group of people that can handle my call. So if I now go and click on, I've got a problem with Windows Phone. Well, of course, you won't have a problem with Windows Phone, but, on there. I haven't got the speaker plugged in, but what you can actually see now, it's initiated a phone call, and I've got a button down the bottom left where I answer the call. All right? Okay, bingo, done. I'm in a phone call with the appropriate agent there. Hey, I've got a problem with my iPhone and it's not working, whatever. And we're all good. Okay, so that's a real simple scenario around call routing, or IVR as it's called if you do it via voice command, okay? And how you can think about or perhaps do that in a different way. Very, very, very easy for devs to get and build this stuff. There's a whole bunch of toolkits and everything else, so you can start, scripting and building it into your own organization. The other one I want to show around here is I've got a little add-in, let me just see if it's in it, called Find Me. You see if I just drop down the bottom there? So this is a little plugin that I have running inside Lync. Okay, this is something that one of our guys in Australia, one of our consultants, just developed in his spare time around there. And then it's to do with using geolocation and presence. We saw it in that bushfire one where you could pinpoint people in terms of where they are. We've taken that to the next step in saying that, hey, we map a building's Wi-Fi network and wired network, Ethernet networks, okay? And then what we're saying is we can use the Wi-Fi and triangulate and identify geographically where somebody may be, all right? Now, a lot of organizations will say, well, I don't really want you to know that I'm in the toilet right now, or whatever it happens to be, or find me. So, but again, there's lots of scenarios where this would be very, very powerful when it comes in. Hospitals in healthcare, for example, they want to find someone who's the nearest, cardiac surgeon to me right now who can come help. Okay, being one click, let's bring that up and search for that. So I'll just give you a quick example of what that looks like. So it's just a web page that we have here, and Find Me application. I won't put any real people's data in there around there, just so in case we don't. I'm sure there's privacy laws against why I shouldn't do that stuff. So we've got some demo users floating around whose identities will be anonymous across here. But the idea being is I type in, I'll search for demo user number 1. Oops, excuse me. There we go. This has copies and goes off, pulls off our building CAD diagrams in terms of our floor plans. Okay. So as I search that user, it knows where he's identified, it's gone off, it's pulled that back, and it's mapped that user, and also it will be their presence. So this guy's offline, so hence it's the bluey-grey colour. If he was available inside Lync, he would be green around there. If he was away, it'd be yellow because he's gone away from his desk or whatever it happens to be, or red. All right. So now we're actually, if you have a huge open plan office or offices over multiple floors and you can never find anybody, this tool is absolutely, invaluable around doing that sort of stuff. But again, think about the different scenarios where it can be used and how this may play into your own organizations across there. But it's not just about internal. So I go out, I'm on my Lync mobile device. Okay, now I have the ability obviously to send GPS coordinates from my mobile device. So let me just go and search for the demo 4. When I checked earlier, this guy was down the pub in Darling Harbour somewhere. There we go, and he's still there right now. And it is coming in there, right? So it can find people internally, it can find people externally. You can search by team. So I go and search for myself, but there we go. So again, it's just doing a lookup in real time. To go and grab me, bingo. Located using GPS, because I'm signing my Lync client through my mobile device, right? And we can drill all the way down there and do that. So it's that real time. So this isn't static, and this is a real application running, across there that we can actually see. All right, so that's a bit around geo presence or geolocation presence. I think it's difficult for a lot of organizations to think about in terms of, it sounds very Big Brother, that everybody knows where everybody is all the time. But I think you just need to think of those right business scenarios. And it may not be users that I'm actually looking for. So there was one hospital we were chatting to recently, were thinking about how they can tag, effectively a tag to an ER cart or a trolley that they use, which apparently are about $8,000 a pop. And I find out where it is in the hospital, okay, and then populate that presence back into Lync so you can see where it is in real time. So you can then go and find the thing and bring it back, because they have a big problem with these things going all off around the hospital and never finding them again around there. So there's, again, a couple of scenarios or examples of where that comes into play. Excuse me. Just get back to my right slide across here. Okay, so contact centers. Let's move through. Here we go. Okay. A lot of organizations want some or have some form of call center, Now, that could be as simple as it's, I've got a large internal support desk, and it's just a team of people, or it could be the sales desk who are taking calls from customers, but they want the ability to be able to do some quite complex call routing and call handling and call reporting around those calls coming in there, right? So just as the position in Lync and what it has out of the box versus when you need something or an application to work or run with Lync. So Lync has out of the box something called response groups. So if you're not familiar with the response groups, really what it is, again, it was like that example I'd done with the IT help desk, but via voice command, all right? I can dial in, I can get a message played to me. Welcome to Microsoft. Please press 1 to speak to sales. I press that, okay? Bingo, then it'll say, okay, we'll route your call to the appropriate person. And then what you do is you have a bunch of people who are signed into that response group, okay? And it will send the call to them based on either, send it all at once, send it to that person because he's had the least number of calls, we've got the idle longest, send him the next call, or round robin, where we just send the call round in a cycle. So each next call goes to the next person, etc. Now, that's great, and it does, it's perfect for a lot of New Zealand-sized organizations in terms of small call centers. But there's a few things it doesn't have. It doesn't have what we call skills-based routing. So you'll see when Jan talks about, shows one of the contact center stuff, how we have to route to people based on priority and weight and skill and all of that. With response groups, you're sort of all in or all out from that side of things. I sign in and I'm equally going to get a call as much as the next person if he signed into the same group. Okay, but it also takes my presence into the mix as well. So it's quite powerful out of the box across here. It doesn't have real-time reporting out of the box. Okay, it has some historical reports you can go and run around, some basic reports, I'd say, around what you can get data out of that thing. But it's not going to show me in real time, blimey, we've got 12 calls in the queue. we best get some more people to go and sign in there so we can handle these because they've been waiting for 3 minutes now, whatever it is. You know, that type of real-time reporting that call centers need in terms of doing that stuff, all right? So when they sort of do workforce management and scheduling and bring all that in, there's a bunch of stuff that's not there. So just positioning where Lync is. Lync is response groups. Lync is not out of the box a full-blown call center, although a lot of smaller call centers can use it in that way, all right? Now the next few applications we're going to run through is really around some of that stuff. The first one is actually enhancing response groups. So Advertel in Australia have an application called Espera. Okay. This thing is a software application that effectively takes the response group capability that is in Lync out of the box, that's doing that call routing and queuing and sending the calls into the sales team as it comes in there, and it's adding in a bunch of stuff. So it's logging in this sort of real-time wallboard display. So this could be a big monitor, you know, coming in there, or it could be just on people's PCs they have running there. So they're getting a real-time status of everything that's going on, you know. If you can't read that across on there, you know, so you've got 4 calls waiting, and you see it's gone red. So there might be a threshold set that after 2 calls waiting in the queue, it goes from green to yellow to red, and those sorts of things. So you build this up, and Jan's going to show some of this in action in a minute. You even see, you know, the longest wait time. So you know the person's been sitting listening to music for whatever it is, 35 seconds. So far, who's sitting in that queue there right now. So you're getting a whole bunch of real-time information. So really, you're taking what's Lync out of the box and now saying, hey, you could sort of make this a call center. If you're happy with the way that the routing capability works from Lync from a response group perspective, I have real-time reports. It'll also give you a whole bunch of customizable historical reports and data across there. And it becomes very, very easy for a user. Because now, you know, really what we have across here is, you know, this tab, if you like, down the side of the Lync client on the left-hand side there, where you can go and you can click and you can sign in to a bunch of stuff. I can sign into my queues. So as an agent to use this, you know, think of an agent in the call center as the person receiving the call. It becomes very, very easy, you know, to actually get that stuff. So good timing to call up Jan, and he can actually take us through a demonstration, and Brian as well, around some of this stuff. Cool. Your PC's locked, so I'll switch you over and there we go.
Well, good. Right, hi everyone. So Paul's probably stolen all my thunder about Aspera and response groups, but we'll carry on. So essentially, response groups are quite functional for a lot of customers. You know, there's tiered menu services. You're able to put in business hours and route to other places and have queues of agents that can handle your calls. One of the big problems with response group is that there's no way, as Paul said, of knowing where the calls are waiting. So you could be sitting there on your help desk and waiting for calls or on a call, and there's no way of understanding where there is another call waiting. So you could spend forever working on a guy and you've got 5 people, you know, waiting to be serviced. So one of the things that this Aspera product brings is the ability to see calls waiting. So we can see we've got a call waiting on a little real-time dashboard here. The other thing it does is it does historical reporting. So in terms of in contact centers, there's a big emphasis on reporting, understanding how long we're on calls, how many calls we get, et cetera, so that we can staff appropriately, so that we can go back to the business and say, we're actually busy, we need more people, all that type of experience. And also the customer service side of things, you know, how we're looking after the customers, are we answering the call quick enough, or are they all hanging up, for example. So this is Aspera. It's really just a tiny little application that runs in the taskbar. And essentially what it does is it connects to the Lync server through an IM chat channel. So you can run this externally. You don't have to run it on VPN. You can run this whole application at home on your internet, and the agent can take calls through response group and still have the wallboard and everything else. So I guess one of the first things inside a response group, we have formal and informal response groups. So formal ones are ones that we actually have to log into. Now, generally, the process for that is to go to your tools menu here, go to response groups, log into a web page, do some ticks, and the same process to log out as well. With Aspera, we just hit a little sign-in button. We decide what group we want to sign into. So I'm into support and sales. I'm going to sign into both. and I'm ready to go. I'm signed into response groups as an agent. I'm not getting any calls because I'm busy, but I'll come and set myself to available. And what should happen is I get a response group call. So I'll accept that. This is just typical response group type functionality. It's telling you through the menu service what that customer chose, so how it got to us, and that it's a sales call. So I can talk to that customer, talk to Brian. Obviously, I can use all the Lync functionality in there as well, so I can share and I can IM and do all the other stuff. So it's really a good application for help desk, internal help desk. You can, start a session up, use the native Lync functionality to share desktops and take control and help users. So we see that happening a lot in internal help desks and IT departments. When I'm going to hang up this call, what I get from Aspera is a little wrap-up. So I can start to categorize and report on, what that fault was about. So if it's a help desk, I could have had a desktop application fault. So I'll submit that, and now that's in the database, so that later on I can run a report on it and understand that I'm getting, desktop faults or Lync faults or whatever I'm going to have. Now, I'm an administrator in this system, so I have a lot more functionality than a typical agent. So there are 4 profiles. There's an agent, which is simply having the wallboard, being able to do that wrap up and logging in and logging out, which I just did, those functions. Second is a supervisor. So a supervisor is able to run reports and look at, statistics on the response group. And beyond that, there's administrators. And there's also a special function for wallboards. So when we show some of the reports, we can pop those up, or this wallboard, onto LCDs in the contact center, etc. Excuse me. Okay, so really quickly, I'll just show you a supervisor view. So supervisor, for any time in the day, can go, okay, what have I done today? I've taken 7 calls. The average talk time was 9 seconds. So I didn't talk to them very long. I hung up all the time. But essentially, you're starting to see what that breakthrough is. You can start to say, okay, well, there are a lot of other reports that I can create, but through this product, I can also run something historically. So I could say, all right, so what was it like yesterday across all the queues, across all the agents? And again, it'll create another report that I can export and do things with. So that's a very simple little product that enhances your response group and gives you a lot more visibility of taking calls and what's going on. So we're going to show you a few products today, and we're sort of, calling them small, medium, large. So you're going to introduce the next one, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'll just flip back on here, excuse me. Okay. So yeah, we really want to sort of bridge that. So response groups, we're not getting onto the screen. That's it.
Yeah.
Response groups are really positioned at that call center. I say small help desk type scenario to small contact center. What do I mean by small? It could be 5 agents, it could be 10 agents. In fact, there's a customer in the UK that was using response groups with Aspera, and they got about 100 lines coming to things. They're using it pretty large, so it can scale. It's just a case of where you use it, what do you fit, and are there better options to meet the business need. Now, this next one, I would say is in the small to medium scale in terms of where we're seeing it in the market, right? So all of these contact center applications we're sort of running through are being deployed and used by customers today here in New Zealand, right? This isn't something that's US-centric or remote around this stuff. There are plenty of customers here in New Zealand that have, for example, Aspera with response groups, Geomant Contact Center, which is this one we're coming onto here. So Jan will talk a little bit about this one, but Geomant is a multimedia contact center, has a whole bunch of capability which Jan will drill through, okay? So it's a little bit different in terms of what it can actually offer, what it can actually queue. For example, here, if I wanted to, I could take a Skype call, one click, bring that in there, and it's no different coming in as it would be a voice call that we'll see coming in a minute across there. It's exactly the same, right? It's just another channel that we have coming in through into the contact center. But typically, agent sizes of these ones, in New Zealand, I'd say 20, 25, maybe up to about 30, 40 agents, that type of scale in terms of where this one really fits, okay, across there. So we'll skip onto there and we'll flick back to Jan to show the Geomont application in action.
Okay, so this is a product from Geomont called Contact Expert. So it is a multimedia contact center. So when we talk about multimedia, we're not just talking about voice calls coming in. We're talking about other medias. We're talking about email being queued into the contact center, SMS, chat sessions from a web page. We're talking about outbound type campaigns, SMS campaigns. So we start to get a whole lot more medias that we're queuing and reporting on within the contact center. What we see with a lot of contact centers is that they might have an email channel, but it's through a shared Outlook mailbox. So nobody knows who's picked them up. Nobody knows how quickly we're responding to them. Nobody knows how many we had. Nothing. So when we start to queue those type of medias into contact centers, then all the reportability that we have from a voice perspective goes across all those other channels. So this is Contact Center Expert, and this is the agent client, essentially. So I can log into some media, so I've got voice, email, and chat there. There's some call controls across the top, so I can do things like answer the call and transfer the call, etc., etc. And optionally, you can have a little agent board that just tells me there's a call waiting and what the service levels were and all that sort of stuff. Now, these contact centers are built on top of Lync as the telephony platform. So there are various varieties of contact centers. There's what we've just seen as Spira, which is just built onto native Lync. There's Contact Center Expert, and Zcom is another product like that built on Lync as a telephony platform. And then when we get to the larger ones, they're almost an adjunct, and we'll talk about that later as well. So basically, we have a palette there that we can drive information into. That could be your CRM, or it could be just a basic script, and we'll show what happens when we get a call. So I'm going to come off break, and we'll see what happens. Whoop. Okay, so typically what you'll find in contact centers like this is that you don't click too many things. The agent gets pushed the call, gets auto-answered. So I'm sitting there, I've got a call now, and I've got a very basic little script that's running. I can, choose different things that I might want to do in this environment. So at the moment, I'm looking at this person's account details, so I can see that they're there. I can see that we've had some contacts with that person before. I might want to say that they have a sales inquiry, so that might drive me into that they want to look at sort of Lync 13 services from Geomont, for example, and we can go into knowledge bases and web pages and information like that, so that the agent can be enabled to do stuff. So basically, we're sitting here and we're in Lync. You might notice that we set certain present states. So inside this environment, we actually send customized present states. So what that means is that we're writing into Lync those type of states. So when we're on contact center calls, we're not getting people IMing me and making calls to my Lync agent when I'm taking customer calls. So I'm going to transfer this call. So I'll hit my consult button, and these are some of the Lync integrations that you see here. So I've got my contact cards, I've got my search ability, so I can look here and maybe look for Brian over there, and I'm looking in my Lync directory in my GAL, my contacts. I'll select him. Along here, I can call his Lync, his main phone, his mobile, his voicemail, same things, same options that you have in Lync. So we'll just call this Lync. I'm not going to worry about announcing it, and I'll send the call off to Brian. So that's me as an agent. I'm finished. I'm going to do a wrap-up code. So it was a sales inquiry, so again, later I can report on that. I'm going to say, right, I'm finished, I'm not doing any more work, and I'm ready to take another call now. So that's just a little, so we're able to, look up in the GAL and find presence. We're looking for experts. We're looking around the environment. We're making sure that we're utilising presence to hit the right person who can help that person. You going to chat for me? Just going to show one more media, and then we're going to do some other stuff. So this uses basically the Lync conferencing pools to bring in calls into it with back-to-back user agents. So things called back-to-back user agents that allow the application to, put things into a call. So, for example, the call will come in and the application will put it into a conference, and then the contact center might want to put an announcement to the call to say we're all busy. It might want to play music. It might want to put a recording bot in there so that this call is being recorded. And these back-to-back user agents in this conference allow them to be two-way or single-way or single direction. You right? No. No? Okay. The other thing is around the administration of it. So just a very quick sort of Lync integration on the administration. So if I was to add an agent into this contact center, I want to create a new agent. So there's usually a lot of information that I need to find out and type into this. Because this is a Lync contact center, I hit this button. Oops. And I've got my usual searchability. So I'm going to find a guy called Charles P. because I want him in the contact center. There he is. I click on him. I load his properties. I say he's a voice agent in the contact center and he can do email and chat. And he's sort of middling good at the moment because he's learning. And I create him and now he's ready to log in and away he goes. So it's very simple to set up and remove, add agents, etc. In terms of reporting, there's all sorts of reports that a supervisor can run. Not going to go into them but there's a huge list. You can run a dashboard, which is just a big wowsy thing, really. It's nothing flash. Geomat can write customized wallboards and stuff so that they can customize these to whatever you want to be. Okay? Okay.
Awesome. Cool. Let me come back across here. All right, so I've got a sort of a snapshot around there in terms of the Geomat stuff. And I suppose, some of the things there at the end, which we sort of, I suppose, get a bit blasé about when you do it all the time, but just built an agent into the contact center, just by a couple of clicks, found somebody, give them a skill, so they can do voice, IM, and email. And now that agent is a multimedia agent. So, if there's no voice calls waiting, it's going to start pumping in IMs or it's going to start pumping in emails into that contact center environment, right? So it's very, very flexible in terms of what that actually does. It can also have some outbound capability as well, sort of built across in that side of it. Next one, we're not going to demo this one just because of the fact it's Zcom are here. They're down, I say, by the hub. So if you want to see and talk more in detail around, their value proposition in terms of some of the differentials they would say they have around, the Geomont stuff, plus, of course, we talked about their operator console earlier on across here. Here you would have, and Zcom, I'm sort of building these up in size. So you've sort of got Geomant and Zcom are sort of doing that smaller, medium, and sort of large, medium-sized call centers coming in there. All right, and this is the sort of capability they're offering. So again, you can see on there, for example, an example of a Zcom agent desktop. Okay, you have coming in there, incoming calls. Again, as Jan pointed out, these are applications that are using Lync as the telephony platform. All right, so the PSTN trunks are connected into the Lync server, coming in there, okay, then the application is taking that and doing some advanced routing capability of that call on top across there, all right? So it's very, very different from, once we look at one in the moment when we talk about some of the larger contact centers, and they will actually connect up as a peer platform, all right, and do their own routing. So they will come in via a SIP trunk into Lync, all right? So it's a very, very different way, say, using Lync as the core telephony and routing, which all this stuff does, so you just deploy it as a Lync-enabled application, versus something like CIC that we're going to get onto, which brings some different capabilities into the mix as well. Which brings me onto that one. And so, again, similar look, feel around an agent desktop. Jan's going to walk through this one. I would say, where do we position in CIC? So, again, we have deployments, live deployments of these in New Zealand with Lync. Tend to be at the larger end of the agent size. So once you get up into some large, I don't know, 50, 100, 200, 300 agent-sized contact centers, you're getting some pretty beefy capability in there. This is where we're really seeing this coming into the mix. And again, we haven't discussed here in terms of some of the value add in terms of architecture and high availability and all these other things. But essentially, the more agents you're getting into a contact center, the more complexity and customization customers want around this stuff. It's pretty much rule of thumb around here, And again, with the ZComs, with the GMATs and everything else, there's a huge amount, again, of that flexibility around there. For other customers, there may be something in this particular platform, such as CIC. There are other ones out there, such as Aspect, and a whole range, Prairie Fire, range of different customer contact centers. Again, built and optimized to work with Lync, okay, to give you some of that other capability as well. So I'll flick over and let Jan take you through this one.
Yep. Okay, so basically this is the big brother type product. So these are the type of products that your banks, your insurance companies, the customer service want lots of applications, have lots of agents, have to staff appropriately, are paying for FTE, people sitting there on their seats every day, and making them be on the queue at exactly the right time in the day for the peaks and flows of calls into the contact center. Now, generally what we find when we get to these big contact centers, it's less about Lync and more about the contact center. So yes, they want to utilize the Lync functionality, but what they're really concentrating on is the contact center. So this one here is a product from Interactive Intelligence called Customer Interaction Center, CIC. But there are other big ones like that. So Genesis is a very big one, Aspect, as Paul said. And they all sort of sit in the top tier of Gartner, and they all integrate with Lync from a SIP perspective. So they are all running their own SIP platform as themselves. Their integrations into Lync are as a SIP gateway so that we can transfer calls backwards and forwards, by doing things like embedding Lync clients into their clients, by doing things like doing presence synchronization and directory synchronization. So I'm able to see that from here that I've got Brian, I know he's available in Lync, even though this isn't the Lync application. I can start IMing him from here, I can share, I can do video calls to him. So again, reaching out inside the enterprise and looking for that customer, or that finding the right person or the expert for that customer before I transfer a call. This is the 2010 integration. They've just, so CIC have just had ISV certification for 2013, so that's just about to due out in a few days. The other thing we can do is what's known as presence synchronization. So that can be in a single direction or bi-directional. And the whole idea is that contact centers in those large environments, the agents only get contacts through the phone numbers and the channels into the contact center. They're not expected and they're not scheduled to take calls from Joe Bloggs out in the enterprise giving him a call. So basically what we see is that when we change our states, so I'll just go down here. So if I change my state inside of the contact center to maybe after call work, I'm going to change my state to the same one. Great. I might go available no ACD. So available no ACD means I'm not working on the contact center at the moment, and suddenly I'm available in Lync as a present state. So all the other states that I'm in when I'm working in the contact center and scheduled to work, basically those businesses want me to say, yeah, he's on do not disturb, or he's on busy, you can't call that guy while he's taking calls. Okay, so I'm going to become available here and just take a call to give you an idea. So I've got that call, it's assigned to me, it's auto-answered. I could go in there as an agent and do things. I could look at the properties of it. I could look at a log and see all the steps and what that customer did. I can mute, I can transfer, etc., etc. What we get is generally we have recording rules in the back end. So there are rules about, am I recording all the calls for compliance? And how long do I keep those for? Or do I have rules where I want to record 4 agents a day for an hour? Or maybe 5 interactions a month for a particular agent? And then they start to get into this thing called quality. So they look at the agent, they score the agent on how they responded in the recording, and did they say the right things. We record screen if that's an option. So did they use the app right? You know, were they doing the right thing? Were they playing solitaire while they were talking to the customer? All that stuff can be recorded. So I'm sitting here and I've got a call, and that's all right. I can hang up and get the next call or the next email, or, you know, it could be an outbound call to you trying to sell you, you know, air conditioning at 6 o'clock on a night when you're sitting down for dinner. These have an awful lot more media. So when I talked about quite a few media that something like Geomant could queue. This has another step ahead. So not only are we doing things like speech-enabled IVR and predictive outbound campaigns and things like that, we're queuing things like social media. We're queuing things like generic objects to push workflows through. All that sort of stuff. There's speech analytics, so not only are we recording, but we're actually listening to keywords that people are saying and picking the sentiment, you know, the sentiment of that call, and then programmatically doing things with that. Could be conferencing in a supervisor or anything. So I guess what we're trying to get across here is that a lot of people go, okay, so Lync doesn't really have a great contact center with response group. But what we're saying is there's some really heavy-hitting, heavy-duty contact centers that run with Lync. Just from a supervisor perspective, here I am. I've got billions of windows of information that tell me about, I can offer feedback surveys about how well we did at the end of the call, and I can plot and do all that sort of stuff. But I can see that my guy is on a call here, and I can do things as a supervisor. I can join the call, I can listen to the call, I can whisper, coach them, say this, do that, okay, so they can come across the call and actually coach. Or I could actually just hang up on the call and the guy won't even know what's happened. Gone. Okay, so I can do pretty much anything. And I can come back to him as a member, yeah, and change his state, so I can change his state for him and say, yeah, you're sacked, or you're in a training session or something. Okay, so I can pretty much Big Brother. In terms, there are a whole lot of other modules. I'm not going to go through them, but maybe I'll just quickly do this one very quickly. So I've just run a search on all the calls I've had in today that I've recorded. So I've got a call that's just arrived here. I can search on all sorts of things, but this is our call. I can open that up, make it a bit bigger, and I can actually play it. I can put tags in there around references I want with when they said the wrong thing, etc., etc. I can look at the participants and who they were and what wrap-up codes we use. Any particular attributes that we put on the call, so we can put attributes on certain calls if it's a particular customer we want. Audit trails. So we can look at who opened the recordings, who listened to them, did anybody tamper with them? It's the whole PCI stuff. We can run questionnaires to score the agent. So you run standard questionnaires. Did they answer the questions right? Did they do, you know, the right behaviours that you want them to do? So, yep, there's a lot of capability in there. So I guess that's very, very short on this. You know, we could spend a very long time. It's a huge product, but it just gives you a bit of an idea of the larger contact centers and the capabilities that can run on Lync. Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Brian. Cool. So that's it in terms of demonstrations, you know, we had going through across here. So I suppose just to close out, and we got about 8 minutes or so left around on there, is just there are lots and lots of different applications there available for Lync. You know, we've shown some stuff around contact center, around advanced call queuing, call routing, and all those sorts of things. But, you know, the slides at the start, you know, they can be simple little things, just as having bots that are across there. You know, they can go in there like we saw on the help desk where we do some stuff. So we could pop up, whether it's the call accounting type applications. So, you know, if you're thinking about, hey, we have this business scenario and we're not sure if Lync's really going to meet the requirement for that, go and do a search across there, right? Go and Google it on Bing, as I like to say, across there, and you will find something in terms of an application that will be available to actually do that stuff. In fact, there's some of the stuff that we showed there, or some stuff we haven't shown, there's things like I'm an Expert. I'm an Expert is a freely downloadable application for Lync, okay, where it basically creates an internal web page that you have, and you go in as a database, and you put down what skills. So you're inside an organization, and we've got these, our 300 people in here, and we all go in there and we say, oh, well, I talk about Lync and phone systems and contact centers, and that's my skills as it comes in there. Then I can go and launch an instant message from Lync to this contact called I'm an Expert. And I just ask a question in there, and automatically in the background, that will search for all of the available people inside my organization that have the skill set, who are available right now, and it will send them an IM and say, hey, can you answer a question for somebody? If they say yes, then it pops them up, and then they go in there. And there's then dashboards and scoreboards and all sorts of other criteria you have to do that. That's a freely downloadable application that you can get up and running in sort of next to no time, around there on Lync. Another really, really good one, which I don't have on my client on there, it's on my other machine, is a conversation translator. Okay? So again, freely downloadable. And what it means is I can tag my contacts and have those in different languages. So if I'm dealing with people in China, for example, right? So their first language is Mandarin. Their English tends to be a lot better than my Mandarin. But having a text chat, and if I can do it in their native language, it's pretty powerful. So with the conversation translator, I'm typing in English, hi, how are you doing today, in there. The application does a real-time web lookup, does a translation using Bing translation services. Right, get a plug-in for Bing across there. Pulls it back. The recipient, whose native language is Mandarin, then receives that instant message coming through in their own language. They just type back in Mandarin, and we get a translation. And if anybody's used those translators, there's probably, 70, 80% accuracy, but you can absolutely have a business conversation over instant message with someone in a different language where you wouldn't already be able to do that via voice or anything out at all right? So opens up a whole new capability and stuff to actually do that. So I say, have a look at some of the stuff that's out there. Myself, Jan, Brian, I say many thanks, guys, for helping out and getting all those demos up and running and working for us around there. We're going to be hanging around afterwards across here. But just to plug, there are 3 more Lync sessions we have coming up in the next couple of days here at TechEd. Okay, so UC 308, so planning and deploying enterprise voice. So Andrew's also doing the designing for HA and DR in Lync 2013. I think those 2 are both tomorrow around there. So then we're getting some of the technical detail around, hey, how do I deploy Lync for my voice system? Or how do I scale out for true 5 nines type availability, for high availability, disaster recovery, and all that other good stuff. And then on Friday afternoon, we have a 100-level session, which is customer journeys, effectively to Lync and Unified Comms. So we have Fonterra coming in and talking around their journey, or their ongoing journey, because it's still ongoing, around migrating from a legacy PBX platforms around the world to using Lync as their all-encompassing communications platform, and what that actually means. And Stuart Riley from Lincoln University as well will be talking around that one. So you're going to get some real customer stories around using some of that stuff. So with that, I'm going to close out. We've got a few minutes, actually, sort of a little bit, about 6 minutes on the clock left. So we have some prizes. I think we're down to 3 prizes per session now. It's amazing. The first session you do in the day, you have 8 or 9 prizes, and then they gradually disappear. So we've got 2 headsets, and then we have the marvelous, if you've not seen this guy, I've been to a Lync session, the Crab, as it's commonly called, the Deleter Drone Attack Droid, or something along those lines. It's an awesome thing. You've got an Xbox-like controller sitting in there. You can fire things out and shoot them all over the place and drive this thing by remote control. It's definitely not something to give to the kids because you want it for yourself. So we'll give those away for some questions if we have any. Yeah, fire away.
Are there any IP endpoints that are supported as contact center endpoints? Perhaps with the
In terms of physical phone type devices?
as opposed to just a USB headset?
Yeah. Do you want to say that one?
So depends on the contact center. So for example, you can use the Lync IP phones if it's a Lync contact center, so a GMANT type contact center or a response group. When you're talking about some of those bigger products like CIC, you can basically use any point you like. It could be your mobile phone, your home phone, an IP, any dialable phone number.
Yeah, so for those that didn't hear the question, it's around can I use a physical endpoint for the agent desktop effectively, rather than just using my PC across there, and a headset connected in there as a soft phone type environment, so have a physical device. But yeah, some of the things where you can have a work-at-home number allocated as an agent. So come grab a nice headset when you're free. Yep.
Those free apps like the bots, are they have to be installed enterprise-wide, or are they client-based?
Some of them are client-based around there, so there's some there are a server requirement. Some there aren't. All right, so it varies depending on the application. The conversation translator is probably a good example. It's just a client-side app, okay, that runs effectively there, and then that can just go off and do its own web calls directly from the client. So it doesn't impact on any of the other enterprise infrastructure at all. All right, when it comes in there. So I suppose that could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your point of view from how you deploy stuff and control stuff inside an organization when it comes in. So grab that, you got the end, grab a headset across there. Yeah, one right at the back, over there. Yep. Yes.
What are you finding is the most popular third-party app in New Zealand?
Third-party app. What, from a contact center perspective or just all up? Conversation translator, huge. Yeah. With the amount of federation and international federation going on, and with a lot of New Zealand companies especially trying to trade with China and stuff, you show them that one, and bang, it's deployed and they're using it, right? And it's just very, very powerful from that one. Across. It's always the free ones that go first, right? Funnily enough as well. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Maybe we should have solved the thing across there. But again, that was an internal Microsoft developed one that was actually there across. Okay. Yeah, in front of
Because these things are integrated with Lync and are obviously signed off for use, do they work across all the Lync clients, or is it only conceivable?
It will vary, yeah. So yeah, the question is, do these apps work with all of the different clients? And I suppose it's going to be, it depends. If it's a client-side one, then it'll be very much a client plugin for the PC client, for example, rather than the phone client, whatever it happens to be, the other clients across there. Whereas obviously a lot of the server-side applications are totally independent of the client stack anyway, in terms of doing some of that stuff there. So it will vary based on application that we have, currently going out there. So that's a pretty good question, actually. So you're the proud owner of this crab. I made a joke earlier about giving out crabs, and it's not a good one, so I won't go there again. Any more questions? Yep.
Some of these different contexts across the world, are there apps that's going to be able to control all of them from one single location?
You can do. I mean, I suppose the thing with Lync is, and the question was around sort of international geographies. Can you have this big global contact center or spread of agents even across there? And then, I mean, absolutely, right? So we say Lync is really geography independent. An agent can sign in from anywhere at all. If they've got an internet connection, they don't need a VPN, they don't need to be on the corporate network. You could be in Timbuktu or sat on the beach in Hawaii somewhere, and if you really want to sign in as an agent and take calls, you can go for it. I don't know many people that probably do it in that scenario, but absolutely, if you've got offices around the world, you run it as a single virtual contact center instance. You still have local inbound calling into each country and all that other stuff for the local field, the local phone numbers, etc. But again, you can then route the call accordingly across the network and it's going to follow the sun moving around. There's lots and lots of different scenarios that you have going in there. Great one we're seeing is a big take up in the call center space of New Zealand customers answering calls for the UK just because of the reverse time zone shift. Okay, and then when they go off at 5 o'clock here, the UK take over and they're taking all the NZ traffic incoming in and these sorts of things. Running it as a single instance and flavor across. So lots and lots of that we see going on out there in the market. Yep.
You mentioned some of the different medias that you're integrating Lync in. I've had a bit of trouble running any federation as any kind of normal old style Polycom endpoint. It's just anything coming around to being able to just federate it.
You mean as a physical device? So the question was around getting a device working with Lync, or externally, or as a...
Yes, someone's got like a Polycom endpoint.
Yep. Yep. Okay. We'll take that one offline. There's probably a few things that could be around on there. So with that, we'll wrap up the session. Please, if you can, come grab the prizes for those guys who got called out around there. Please do your evals around this stuff.